The Galactic Integration Academy was a massive space station that floated above a small trading moon. It was the most famous school in the entire galaxy. Children from hundreds of different alien species came here to learn together. For 300 years, the academy had taught the sons and daughters of diplomats, traders, and military leaders. But in all that time, no human had ever walked through its doors. Until today. Park. Hannah stepped off the transport ship and took her first breath of recycled station air. She was 16 years old, not very tall, and looked completely ordinary by human standards. Her dark hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her school uniform was neat and clean. She carried a small bag with her belongings. To anyone on Earth, she would have looked like any other teenage girl going to a new school. But to the aliens watching her arrive, she was something else entirely. Earth had a special name among the stars. They called it Deathworld 7. It was a planet where the gravity was crushing, where the weather could kill, where disease spread like fire, and where every living thing had evolved to fight and survive. The creatures that came from Earth were considered the most dangerous beings in the known galaxy, and humans were the most dangerous of them all. Hannah saw the fear in their eyes as she walked through the entrance hall. A group of small insect-like aliens pressed themselves against the wall. Their many legs clicked against the floor as they tried to get away from her. Her translation device, a tiny chip behind her ear, picked up their whispered words. They were praying. They were actually praying for protection from her. She wanted to tell them she was not dangerous. She wanted to say that she was just a girl who liked music and books and spending time with her friends. But she knew they would not believe her. Her father had warned her about this. Ambassador Park Do-yeon had spent 5 years negotiating Earth's entry into the Galactic Compact. He had worked very hard to convince the alien governments that humans could be trusted. Sending Hannah to the academy was supposed to prove that humans could live peacefully alongside other species. It was an important job, and Hannah had promised to do her best. But right now, doing her best meant walking with her head down and trying not to scare anyone. The entrance hall was beautiful. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows across the floor. The ceiling was so high that Hannah could barely see it. Everywhere she looked, there were aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some looked like they were made of living stone. A few had so many eyes that Hannah could not count them all. None of them would look at her directly. "You must be the human," said a gentle voice. Hannah looked up and saw a tall, thin alien standing in front of her. The alien had lavender-colored skin and forearms. Her eyes were large and golden, like pools of honey. She wore a silver sash across her chest that marked her as a student guide. "I am Thessaly," the alien said. Her mouth did not move the way human mouths did, but her voice was warm and friendly. "I have been assigned to help you during your first week. Actually, I asked for this job. I have always wanted to meet a human." Hannah felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. "Thank you." "I am Hannah." Thessaly made a gesture with 2 of her arms that seemed like a smile. "Come, I will show you to your room and explain how the academy works. There is much to learn." As they walked through the winding hallways, Hannah noticed the guards. They stood at every corner and every doorway. Most of them were Korvathi, a species of large reptilian aliens. They were at least 7 feet tall, covered in blue-black scales that seemed to swallow the light. They wore heavy armor and carried long staffs that crackled with electricity. The Korvathi were known throughout the galaxy as warriors. They had fought in many wars and had never been defeated. They were proud, fierce, and they did not like outsiders. One guard in particular caught Hannah's attention. He was bigger than the others, and he wore extra badges on his armor that showed his high rank. A small plate on his chest said his name was Commander Voth. When Hannah walked past him, He turned his head and stared at her with cold, yellow eyes. His lip curled back to show his teeth. Hannah's translation device told her this was a challenge. He was daring her to fight. Hannah looked away quickly and kept walking. "Do not worry about the Korvathi," Thessaly said quietly. "They do not like anyone. It is not personal." But Hannah had seen the look in Commander Voth's eyes. It felt very personal. Thessaly showed her the dining hall, the classrooms, the recreation areas, and finally her small private room. The room had a bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the stars, and not much else. It was simple, but it was hers. "You will be alone here," Thessaly explained. "The other students were afraid to share a room with you." "I am sorry." "It is okay," Hannah said, even though it hurt a little. "I understand." Thessaly paused at the door. "Hannah, may I ask you something?" "Yes." "On your world, is it true that you hunt animals by chasing them until they die from exhaustion? Is it true that you can break bones and keep fighting? Is it true that you have acid in your stomachs and poison in your mouths?" Hannah thought about how to answer. Everything Thessaly said was technically true. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They could run for hours without stopping. They could survive injuries that would kill other species. Their stomach acid could dissolve metal, and their saliva was full of bacteria that could cause terrible infections. But that was not the whole story. "We also write poetry," Hannah said softly. "We paint pictures. We fall in love. We cry when we are sad and laugh when we are happy. We are not just survivors, Thessaly. We are also dreamers." Thessaly's golden eyes widened. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she made that arm gesture again, the one that looked like a smile. "I think I am going to like you, Hannah," she said. "I will see you tomorrow." After Thessaly left, Hannah sat on her bed and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning around its sun. Her mother was probably making dinner right now. Her little brother was probably playing video games. They felt so far away. She touched the window with her fingertips. "I will make you proud," she whispered. "I promise." She did not know that Commander Voth was already planning to break that promise for her. 3 weeks passed at the academy, and Hannah learned many things. She learned which hallways to avoid during busy hours. She learned which foods her human stomach could handle and which ones would make her sick. She learned the names of dozens of alien species and their customs. Most importantly, she learned that not everyone at the academy hated her. It started on her 4th day. During lunch, Hannah was sitting alone at a table in the corner of the dining hall. She always sat alone. The other students were too afraid to come near her. She was eating something that looked like blue rice when a tray slammed down across from her. She looked up and saw a human face. "You are doing all wrong," the boy said. His name was Kim Jisoo, and he was 18 years old. He was tall for a human, with sharp features and confident eyes. His father was a trade negotiator, and Jisoo had been attending the academy for 2 years. He was the only other human in the entire school. "What do you mean?" Hannah asked. Jisoo leaned forward. "You are trying to make yourself small. You walk with your head down. You avoid eye contact. You sit in corners. That is prey behavior, Hannah. They can sense it. I am trying not to scare them." Jisoo laughed. It was a loud, sudden sound, and several nearby aliens flinched at the noise. He did not seem to care. "Listen to me," he said. "We are from a planet where we turned wolves into pets because we thought it would be fun. We invented coffee because we wanted to work longer hours. Our ancestors killed mammoths with sharp sticks. Our bodies can digest things that would poison any other species in this school. We have earned our reputation." Hannah was quiet for a moment. "So what should I do?" "Own it," Jisoo said simply. "You do not have to be mean or scary. Just stop apologizing for existing. Walk tall. Look people in the eyes. Be proud of who you are. It was hard advice to follow, but Hana tried. Over the next few weeks, things slowly got better. She started walking with her shoulders back. She stopped flinching when the Kovathi guards walked past. She even started making friends. Thessaly remained her closest companion. The lavender alien was curious about everything human. She asked Hana endless questions about Earth, about human food, about human music, about human love. Hana answered as best she could, and in return, Thessaly taught her about the galaxy. Then there was Gills, a mortis from a water planet. Gills looked something like a large frog with 6 legs and gills on his neck. He found humans fascinating because they could swim but chose to live on land. He thought this was the funniest thing in the universe. And there was Click, a tiny Volani insect alien who was only as tall as Hana's knee. Click collected books from every planet and was very excited to learn that Earth had millions of them. She made Hana promise to send her human stories. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Hana started to feel like she belonged. But Commander Voth never stopped watching. Every time Hana walked through the halls, she felt his yellow eyes on her. He never said anything. He never did anything. He just watched and waited, and hated that the incident happened on a rest day. The recreation area was a large, open space where students could play games and exercise. Hana was there with Thessaly, Gills, and several other students. They were playing a game that was similar to basketball. The goal was to throw a ball through a floating ring while the ring moved around the room. Hana was having fun. She was laughing. For a few minutes, she forgot that she was supposed to be careful. Then a small body crashed into her legs. Hana looked down and saw a Kovathi child on the ground. The little one was barely older than a baby, with soft scales that had not yet hardened. The child had been running and had tripped and fallen against Hana's legs. The child looked up at her with wide, terrified eyes. "It is okay," Hana said softly. She bent down and gently helped the child to their feet. "Are you hurt?" Before the child could answer, something grabbed Hana's shoulder and threw her backward. She hit the ground hard. The air rushed out of her lungs. Pain exploded across her back. For a moment, she could not breathe, could not think, could not move. Then she looked up and saw Commander Voth standing over her. His shock staff was in his hand. Blue electricity crackled along its length. His yellow eyes were filled with rage. "You dare touch a Kovathi child?" he roared. "You dare put your Deathworld hands on our young?" She fell, Hana gasped. "I was just helping." The staff came down across her face. The pain was beyond anything Hana had ever felt. It was not just physical pain. The electricity burned through her nerves, set her brain on fire, made her whole body scream. She felt her cheekbone crack. She felt blood pour from a cut above her eye. She felt herself fall back to the ground. The world went blurry. She could hear screaming. She could hear Thessaly shouting her name. She could hear other students crying out in shock and fear. But beneath all that noise, Hana heard something else. She heard her own heartbeat. It was getting faster. Faster and faster, like a drum building to a crescendo. Her blood was pumping. Her muscles were tightening. Something ancient was waking up inside her. Something that had been sleeping in her DNA for millions of years. Her ancestors had not survived Earth by being weak. They had survived by becoming the most dangerous things on the planet. And now, that survival instinct was taking over. Hana's pupils expanded until her eyes looked completely black. Her body flooded with adrenaline. Her pain faded to nothing. Her fear disappeared. She stood up. Commander Voth took a step back. And for the first time in his long military career, the great Kovathi warrior felt afraid. Commander Voth had lived a long and violent life. He had fought in 3 wars. He had killed enemies with his claws, his teeth, and his bare hands. He had broken bones and watched the light fade from dying eyes. He was Corvathi, a member of the most feared warrior species in the galaxy. And he had never run from a fight. But when the human girl stood up, her face covered in blood and her eyes turned completely black. He felt something he had not felt since he was a small child, hiding from night hunters in the swamps of his homeworld. He felt true fear. The girl was small. She was young. She should have been crying on the ground, begging for mercy. That was what prey did when they were hurt. That was what weak creatures did when faced with a predator. But this girl was not crying. She was not begging. She was standing, and she was looking at him with those terrible black eyes. And there was something in her face that made his scales go cold. "You hit me," she said, thought her voice was calm. Too calm. There was no anger in it, no fear, no pain. It was flat and empty, like the voice of a machine. But underneath that emptiness, Voth could sense something waiting, something hungry. "You a prey," he growled, tightening his grip on his shock staff. "You should have stayed on your death rock." The girl tilted her head slowly, like a predator studying its next meal. Blood dripped from her chin and fell to the floor. She did not wipe it away. She did not seem to notice it at all. "My ancestors," she said, taking a step forward, hunted giant animals across frozen lands. They would chase their prey for days without stopping. They would run and run until the animal's heart gave out. Did you know that? No other species in the galaxy can do that. Only humans. Voth raised his staff. "Stay back." She took another step. "My ancestors crossed oceans on boats made of wood. They climbed the highest mountains. They walked on the moon. They split atoms and made fire from nothing. I said stay back." Voth swung his staff at her head. She caught it. The electricity surged through her hand. Voth could see her skin burning, could smell the flesh cooking, but she did not let go. She did not even flinch. Her black eyes stayed locked on his face. The crowd around them had gone silent. Thessaly had her 4 hands pressed against her mouth. Gills had stopped breathing. Even the other Corvathi guards had frozen in place. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the crackling of the staff's electricity. "On my world," Hana continued, her voice still terrifyingly calm, "we have a saying. It takes many generations to build a reputation. It only takes one moment to destroy it." She twisted her wrist. The staff flew out of Voth's hands and clattered to the ground. Voth stumbled backward, his claws scraping against the floor. He was bigger than her. He was stronger than her. He was trained for combat. But in that moment, looking into those black eyes, he felt like a small creature facing something much, much older than himself. "You just taught everyone in this school something important," Hana said. "You taught them that the Corvathi are not to be respected. You taught them that your species beats children. You taught them that your warriors are cowards." She pointed at herself. "You struck a child." She pointed at him. "And that child is still standing." She took one more step forward, and Voth took one more step back. His back hit the wall. He had nowhere else to go. "But you," she said softly, "are not." For a long, terrible moment, nothing happened. Voth waited for the killing blow. He waited for her to tear out his throat with her teeth, the way the old stories said humans did. He waited for death, but death did not come. Instead, the human girl bent down and picked up his shock staff. She looked at it for a moment, turning it over in her burned hand. Then she dropped it at his feet. "I am not going to hurt you," she said. "Not because I cannot. Because I choose not to." She turned and walked away. The crowd parted for her like water. No one touched her. No one spoke to her. They just watched as she walked out of the recreation area, her bloody footprints marking her path. Thessaly was the first to move. She ran after Hana, her 4 arms reaching out, Gills followed, his webbed feet slapping against the floor. Click scurried after them, her tiny legs moving as fast as they could. Commander Voth stayed against the wall, his second in command. A younger Kovathi named Lieutenant Thess approached him slowly. "Commander, are you injured?" Voth did not answer. He was staring at the bloody footprints on the floor. He was thinking about what he had just seen. He was thinking about the old stories his grandmother used to tell. The stories about the monsters that came from Deathworlds. The creatures that could not be killed. He had always thought those stories were exaggerations. Now he knew they were not. "Commander?" Lieutenant Thess asked again. Voth finally looked at him. "Send a message to the High Commander. Tell her what happened here today. Tell her everything. What should I say about the human?" Voth was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was heavy with shame and something else. Something that might have been respect. "Tell her that the humans are everything the story said they were. Tell her that we have made a terrible mistake. Tell her that I struck a child of Earth." He looked at the bloody footprints one more time. "And tell her that I am lucky to be alive." The Academy's governing council met in a great chamber at the heart of the station. The room was round, with seats rising up in circles like a stadium. At the center was a raised platform where those who were being judged had to stand. The walls were made of dark metal, and the ceiling was painted with the symbols of every species in the Galactic Compact. Hannah sat at the human delegation's table. Her wounds had been cleaned and bandaged. Her burned hand was wrapped in white medical cloth. The cut above her eye had been sealed with some kind of healing gel. Her eyes were back to normal now, dark brown and tired. Her father sat beside her. Ambassador Park Do-hyun was a calm man. He had spent years learning to hide his emotions during difficult negotiations. But today, there was a tightness around his eyes that showed his anger. He was furious about what had happened to his daughter. He was just too professional to show it openly. On the other side of the chamber, Commander Voth stood in chains on the central platform. His shock staff had been taken away. His badges of rank had been removed. He looked smaller without his weapons and his pride. Behind him, at the Kovathi delegation's table, sat High Commander Theska. She was the highest-ranking Kovathi in this sector of space, a massive female with scales that had turned silver with age. She had fought in more wars than anyone could count. She had won every single one. But today, she was not here to fight. She was here to judge. The headmaster of the academy floated in the air above everyone. He was a Sheth, a species made of living crystal. His body hummed and sang as he spoke, each word carrying through the chamber like music. "We are gathered to discuss the events of yesterday," the headmaster said. "A student was attacked by a member of our security staff. This is a serious matter." "The facts are clear," Ambassador Park said, his voice steady. "My daughter was helping a fallen Kovathi child. She was showing kindness. Commander Voth attacked her without cause. He struck her with a weapon designed to cause pain and injury. He broke her cheekbone. He burned her hand. He did this to a 16-year-old girl." High Commander Theska made a low rumbling sound in her throat. "The human is a Deathworlder. Her very presence is a threat to the other students." "Then perhaps," Ambassador Park replied, "your government should not have voted to accept Earth into the Galactic Compact. We did not hide what we are. We showed you our history. We showed you our biology. We showed you everything. You knew exactly what humans were when you invited us to join you." Theska's claws scraped against her table. "Your daughter humiliated one of our commanders." Ambassador Park stood up slowly. He was not a tall man, and he was surrounded by aliens who were much larger than him. But somehow, in that moment, he seemed to fill the room. "My daughter showed incredible control," he said. "Do you understand what happens to a human when they are attacked? Our bodies flood with chemicals. Our hearts beat faster. Our muscles become stronger. Our minds become sharper. We call this the fight or flight response. It is something that helped our ancestors survive on a planet that was constantly trying to kill them. He paused and looked around the room. When a human enters this state, they become capable of amazing things. They can lift objects that should be too heavy for them. They can ignore pain that should make them collapse. They can fight with a speed and strength that surprises even themselves. He turned to face Theska directly. My daughter entered this state after being attacked. Her body was preparing to fight for her life. Her instincts were screaming at her to kill the threat in front of her. And yet, she did not. She disarmed Commander Voth. She did not kill him. She did not even injure him. She chose mercy. The chamber was silent. On Earth, Ambassador Park continued, we have a saying. The measure of a person is not what they do when they are calm. It is what they do when they are angry. My daughter was hurt, afraid, and filled with the most powerful survival instincts in the galaxy. And she still chose to walk away. He sat back down. That is not the behavior of a monster. That is the behavior of someone with honor. Theska was quiet for a long time. Her old eyes moved from the ambassador to Hana to Commander Voth. She seemed to be thinking very carefully about something. Finally, she spoke. Commander Voth, step forward. Voth moved to the center of the platform. His chains rattled with each step. You have served the Kolvathi military for 40 years, Theska said. You have won medals. You have led troops. You have brought honor to our people many times. Voth lifted his head slightly, as if expecting praise. But today, Theska continued, her voice growing cold. You have brought us only shame. Voth's head dropped. You attacked a child. Not a soldier. Not an enemy. A child. And when that child rose to face you, you could not even hold your ground. You, a commander of the Kolvathi Guard, were bested by a teenage girl. The words hit Voth like physical blows. The humans did not attack us, Theska said. They did not start a war. They did not even hurt you when they had every right to do so. All they did was stand up after being knocked down. And that alone was enough to defeat you. She stood up, and the entire Kolvathi delegation stood with her. You will return to our homeworld in disgrace. Your rank is taken away. Your medals are taken away. You will never serve in any military position again. She turned to Hana. A human child. You fought when struck and showed mercy when you won. You had every reason to kill, and you chose not to. Among the Kolvathi, this is considered honorable. I do not like your species. I do not trust your species. But I can respect strength, and I can respect control. She made a gesture that Hana's translator identified as a salute. You have the respect of the Kolvathi. Do not waste it. Then she turned and walked out of the chamber, her delegation following behind her. Hana sat very still. Her father put his hand on her shoulder. Neither of them spoke. The headmaster's crystalline voice filled the silence. This council finds that the human student acted in self-defense. No punishment will be given. The human student is free to continue her studies at this academy. He paused, and his body seemed to glow brighter. Perhaps this incident will teach us all something valuable. We must not judge others by where they come from. We must judge them by what they do. Today, a Deathworlder showed more control and honor than a trained warrior. Let us remember this lesson. The council was dismissed. Hana and her father walked out of the chamber together. Thessaly, Gills, and Click were waiting outside. They ran to her and surrounded her, touching her gently, asking if she was okay. Hana looked at her friends, then at her father, then at the stars visible through a nearby window. I am okay, she said quietly. I am going to be okay. And for the first time since the incident, she believed it. 3 days after the council meeting, Hana found herself standing on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The deck was a quiet place, a long room with one wall made entirely of glass. From here, she could see the trading moon below, the distant sun, and the endless blackness of space stretching out forever. Her cheeks still hurt when she smiled. Her hand was still bandaged, but the pain was fading and something else was taking its place. Something that felt almost like peace. The door behind her opened, and she heard familiar footsteps. "I thought I would find you here," Jisoo said, walking up to stand beside her. "You know you are famous now, right?" Hana sighed. "I do not want to be famous. Too bad." Jisoo crossed his arms and looked out at the stars with her. "The Villani are writing songs about you. They are calling you the Black-Eyed Guardian. Thessaly says the Mortith want to make you an honorary member of their sports team. And Click has already translated the story of your fight into 17 different languages for her book collection." Hana touched the bandage on her cheek. "I did not want any of this. I just wanted to go to school and make some friends and not cause any problems." Jisoo laughed softly. "That was never going to happen, Hana. We are humans. We cause problems just by existing. The galaxy is scared of us, and they should be. But you showed them something important." "What?" "You showed them that being scary and being dangerous are not the same thing." Jisoo turned to look at her. "Every species in this school knows that you could have killed Commander Voth. He was bigger than you, stronger than you, armed, trained, and ready to fight. But you took his weapon away like it was nothing. You stood over him and looked into his eyes, and he was afraid. You could have done anything to him." He paused. "But you did not. You walked away. That is what everyone is talking about. Not that a human beat a Korvathi, but that a human chose not to hurt a Korvathi when she had every right to." Hana was quiet for a moment. She thought about those terrible seconds after she had stood up, when everything had gone dark and clear at the same time. She remembered looking at Commander Voth and seeing exactly how to hurt him. She remembered the feeling of power running through her body, the ancient voice in her blood telling her to fight, to kill, to survive. She remembered how hard it had been to walk away. "I thought about killing him," she admitted quietly. "When the adrenaline hit, when my eyes went dark, I could see all the ways to do it. I knew where to hit him, where to cut him, how to bring him down. It was like my body already knew, even though I had never been in a real fight before." Jisoo nodded. "That is the survival instinct. Millions of years of evolution, all designed to keep us alive on a planet that wanted us dead. It does not make you a bad person, Hana. It makes you human." "But I did not do it," Hana said. "I felt all of that, and I still chose to walk away. That is what makes you special." Jisoo smiled. "Any creature can fight when threatened. When threatened, any animal can kill to survive. But choosing not to, even when your whole body is screaming at you to attack, that takes something more. That takes being human." They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars. "My grandmother used to tell me something," Hana said finally. "She grew up during hard times, when our country was going through a lot of pain. She said that being human means having the power to destroy and choosing to create instead. She said our real strength is not in our muscles or our endurance. It is in our ability to look at someone who hurt us and decide they are not worth destroying." Jisoo nodded slowly. "That is very wise. That is very Korean," Hana said with a small smile. "We have had a lot of practice at surviving, and at choosing when not to fight." The door opened again, and Thessaly came in. Her forearms were full of food containers from at least 5 different alien cuisines. Behind her, Gills waddled in on his 6 legs, and Click scurried in at floor level, her tiny body moving quickly across the smooth metal. "I brought food," Thessaly announced. "Gil says we are celebrating. Click has started writing an epic poem about you, and I want an excuse to try that human food you told me about. The brown sweet thing," Chocolate, Hannah said. Yes, chocolate. Thessaly's golden eyes sparkled. I have been very curious about it. Gills made a bubbling sound that was his species' version of laughter. The human who defeated a Korvati commander wants to share chocolate with us. This is the best day of my life. Click made clicking sounds with her tiny mandibles. I have composed the first verse of my poem. Would you like to hear it? It begins with your eyes turning black, which is very dramatic. Hannah looked at her friends. Thessaly with her lavender skin and 4 gentle arms. Gills with his friendly face and constant curiosity. Click with her love of stories and her tiny, brave heart. And Jesu, the only other human who understood what it felt like to be feared. She felt tears prick at her eyes. But they were not sad tears. Yes, she said. I would love to hear your poem, Click. And yes, Thessaly, you can try the chocolate. And yes, Gills, we are celebrating. She took a deep breath. But first, I want to say something. I came to this school thinking I had to hide what I was. I thought I had to be small and quiet and careful so that nobody would be scared of me. I thought being human was something to apologize for. She looked out at the stars one more time. But I am not going to apologize anymore. I am human. I come from a world that tried to kill my ancestors every single day, and they survived. They did more than survive. They loved, they dreamed, they created, they explored. They looked at a hostile universe and said, "We will make this our home." That is what being human means. She turned back to her friends. And now I have friends from other worlds. I have people who care about me even though I come from a death planet. I have a place where I belong. That is amazing. That is beautiful. I am not going to waste it by being afraid. Thessaly reached out with one of her arms and gently touched Hannah's shoulder. You were never something to be afraid of, Hannah. You were always something to be amazed by. I knew that from the first moment I met you. Gills nodded, his gills fluttering. On my world, we have a saying. The most dangerous creature is not the one with the biggest teeth. It is the one that knows when not to bite. You are that creature, Hannah. Click made her clicking sounds again, which Hannah's translator rendered as agreement. I will make sure the galaxy knows your story. Not the story of a monster. The story of a girl who could have been a monster and chose to be a friend instead. Jesu put his hand on Hannah's other shoulder. Welcome to the galaxy, Hannah. It is going to be an interesting journey. Hannah smiled, even though it made her cheek hurt. Let us start with the chocolate, she said. And as they sat together on the observation deck, sharing food and stories and laughter, Hannah realized something important. She had come to the academy afraid of what she was. Afraid of her own nature, her own instincts, her own power. She had tried to be less than human so that others would not fear her. But the galaxy did not need humans who pretended to be weak. The galaxy needed humans who knew their strength and chose to use it for good. Humans who could stand in the face of violence and choose peace. Humans who could look at a universe full of fear and hatred and say, "We can do better." That was the real power of her species. Not the ability to kill. The ability to choose not to. And as she bit into a piece of chocolate and watched, Thessaly's eyes go wide with delight at the taste. Hannah knew that she had finally found her place among the stars, not as a monster dog, not as a victim, but as a human being, and that was enough.